Did you know that intersex people comprise about 1.7% of the global population? That's about the same amount of frequency as redheads. So if you compare that statistic and you look around and you see how many people have red hair, that's a good indicator of how many people are out there who are born with mixed genitalia. Now that's just when it comes to the concept of sex. The concept of gender is something much more different. Hey everyone, thanks for tuning in. I am TheAmazingFlec, and today is Transgender Visibility Day. Oh yeah, and a little context. If you're new to my channel, I'm currently on break at work during a 16-hour shift. I'm posting every single day of this year on YouTube, partially as an experiment to track my progress as a video producer, and also because I have a lot of interests and I want to say stuff, so thanks for watching. The word transgender and people who are transgendered are still very much misunderstood in my opinion. I brought up the concept of intersex at the beginning of this video for a reason. 1.7% of the population of people on this planet are born with mixed genitalia or ambiguous genitalia. And that's just their genitals. That has nothing to do with what their gender is. I mean, really, who's to say how someone ought to behave throughout the rest of their life because of some way that medical doctors and parents just decided that this is how they ought to be. They ought to be a boy or they ought to be a girl when they were born with both parts. And even then, we do have people born with physical male anatomy and physical female anatomy and still don't quite feel at home inside their own body with what their gender is. So I don't want to overly simplify a more or less complex issue. But sex and gender are often confused with each other. Sex refers more to the biological, physical aspects of an organism, while gender refers more to the socially constructed roles of what it is to be a male or a female or this or that or anything in between. And for many folks out there, including myself being cis-gendered, cisgender means that my sex, my gender, and my sexual identity all line up with what's stereotypically normal. And the truth of the matter is we really don't know what people have between their legs, nor should we care about what they have between their legs. And that's just sex, that's the physical aspects. Furthermore, we really shouldn't care, judge, or bother, or fuss with, and most certainly not bully anyone who's having difficulty with their gender identity. I mean, just because it didn't happen to you doesn't mean it doesn't happen to other people. Just because you can't relate to someone else's situation because of your personal experiences doesn't mean that their experiences are any less valid. I mean, I'm by no means an authority on this subject. I'm not transgendered, and I only know a tiny fraction of what my transgendered friends have to go through on a daily basis. Whether it's as simple as just going out to the grocery store or what they have to face with online with social media. So partly because of their decreased numbers and because transgendered people aren't physically as visible as redheads, you could see someone and just think instantly, oh, that person's a male and they're masculine and all these different things, but you might not know that they were born biologically a female. And vice versa, you just never know these things. So we can't see transgendered people as easily as we can their redheads, which occur once again at the same frequency, about 1.7% of the global population. So if you think about that, about 1.7% of your friends and family were born intersex, and as a result of that, may or may not be transgendered themselves. And that doesn't include the amount of people who are transgendered that were born with a fixed biological sex of either male or female, as assigned by their doctors and or parents. And that doesn't account for gender fluid people, people who kind of break the norms of what society has created over the years of what is considered masculine, feminine, male or female, etc., etc. It could be a very confusing thing for a lot of folks, especially people who fall into my demographic. Cisgendered male who has no personal experience with what it has to feel like to be transgendered and treated like an outcast because of that, because of my gender identity and because of how I behave and how I act in my mannerisms. I mean, I take that back a little bit. When I was younger, I used to walk around on the tips of my toes all the time. And sometimes I'd put on my mom's high-heeled shoes because it would make my friends laugh or make my mom laugh. And it was just for fun, just for kicks, you know. Get it? High heels, kicks. Anyway. But not everyone thought that was funny. I was called various names by people who were tough guys around the neighborhood because of that, because they heard that I was walking around in high heels. And fortunately for me, it didn't bother me very much because I've been more or less pretty confident in my sexuality throughout most of my life and my masculinity or lack of. But I also caught a little bit of heat during high school and middle school for having black fingernails. I painted my fingernails because whatever, you know, I'm a kid in the 90s, got to express yourself and show the world that you're different and everything. And I did have every single different color of the rainbow of my hair dyed throughout high school too, including pink. Pink wasn't on purpose, Admittedly, I didn't do it on purpose. It was red that faded to pink. But I did catch heat from that from some more homophobic people in my high school that like to call me the F word. So I guess sometimes people fear what they don't understand, and it can be met with hostility, aggression, or anxiety. And I think for those reasons, it's very important to have a day like today, where we do observe and recognize and see our transgendered friends and family for who they are, and recognize them as fellow human beings who have feelings, emotions, and lives all of their own that deserve to be recognized and respected. So off the top of my head, I can think of at least 7 different people, 8 different people, probably more, who I know in my life that I love, admire, and respect that are transgendered. And the funny thing is, even to this day, with all the awareness out there in the world, with social media promoting various disenfranchised sectors of humanity, we still have lots of stigma, misunderstanding, and even bullying of people who are transgendered. And the truth of the matter is that if you know 1 or 2 redheads, chances are you know 1 or 2 transgendered people also. Once again, not that transgendered and intersex necessarily means the same thing at all, but often I do feel they can be related because of how society projects their images on how they ought to behave. But all the stigma, the fear, the misunderstanding, the bullying all comes from a place of ignorance or fear or hate. And all 3 of those things are a big enemy to a society of people that cares and loves and understands each other. So for Transgender Visibility Day, I'd like to say, I see all you transgendered friends and family out there, and I love you. And I know that I love you because you're my friends and my family first and foremost before anything else. I don't care what you have between your legs. I don't care who you want to love. I don't care how many people you want to love. I mean, I do care, but I'm not going to judge you for it. I am by no means an expert on the subject of what it is to be transgendered by any stretch of the imagination. I'm not trying to educate anyone out there about what is and what isn't one way or the other when it comes to being transgendered or intersex. But what I am here to say is, just because I don't understand it doesn't mean that I don't see you and recognize you, even if I don't fully understand what it is to be transgendered or intersex. Doesn't mean that I don't stand right beside you. And it doesn't mean that I don't want to understand either. I've been learning a lot more about what it is to be transgendered by my transgendered friends and family who have come out to me and talked to me about it. Some of the stories are incredibly sad. Some of them are quite inspiring. And some of them are quite empowering even. Some of the strongest people I've known and met happen to be transgendered human beings. I mean, think about all the ridicule and bullying they had to endure for most of their lives. And they still walk around with their head held high, with their pride in their heart, and they keep going every single day. I have a lot of respect for the outsider. I have respect for those who fall outside the realm of what's considered normal, because I myself have fallen outside of that realm in many different areas throughout my life. Now, this is one area where I don't personally fall into, but I can still empathize with it. Just because it doesn't happen to me and I'm not actually going through it doesn't mean it invalidates anyone else's personal experience. And something can be said about those who fall outside the realm of what's considered normal. People who fall outside the realm of what's considered normal generally know what it's like to be ridiculed, bullied, attacked, not taken seriously, dismissed. I mean, when you're used to getting the short end of the stick on a regular basis and not being taken seriously, you probably will group together with other people who are like you, and there's a mutual respect between you and other people who fall under that umbrella. We've got to stick together, folks. We've got to stick together, not just because of our similarities, but also because of our differences. And we can celebrate those differences, and we can respect each other, we can love each other, and we can understand each other. And I guess that's all I really wanted to say here today. So thanks very much, everyone, for tuning in and watching. I appreciate it very much. Remember to keep safe, be well, stay humble, and peace.